Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss at Internet Shitlords. I was really not planning to do another video so soon. This has been a very busy week, apparently, for news, you could say, because I've had like a couple of videos that I decided to jump in and do them because there's a lot of newsworthy stuff. It's funny, like last month there was nothing new happening from WotC, and now WotC seems to once again be determined to screw up on a near daily basis. So here you go. The news is, you might remember, not my last video, because my last video was a review, but the one before that, that was a video where I was talking about this thank you video that the WotC did on its official channel. And a couple of days ago they did a second one, possibly in response to the relatively bad reception the first one had for not mentioning Gary Gygax or Dave Arneson at all. Okay? So that was what was going on there. And now they have gone on to do another video. And at first glance, this might seem like they're trying to fix the problem. Hey, look, it's a meatball. Hey, meatball. What's up? What's up, meatball? What are you doing there? All right, you're very outraged by this whole situation. You're also very wet. What, has it been raining outside? It must be raining outside. My cat, for whatever reason, unlike almost every other cat, doesn't care at all about getting wet. She likes to be outside in the rain. So there we go. Anyway, so where was it? Oh yeah, so they did this video that was about about the origins of D&D. And it's actually basically one big infomercial for a product, one of the products that they're coming out with this year in celebration of the supposed 50th anniversary, or rather the supposed celebration, because it is the 50th anniversary, but the celebration of it has left a lot to be desired. And what they're selling it as on the video, you look at it, and it's going to be this big hardcover book that is going to have the original first draft that Gary Gygax wrote of the D&D rules, plus a bunch of other stuff from zines, personal letters, his laundry lists, all this kind of stuff. So it's clearly being presented as a collectible, exactly like I said. They're not really making books anymore. They're going to stop making books anyways after the 3 core books. What they're making is a... She's very vocal today. Whoa, careful. What they're making is a collector's item, and it's meant, the video is intended to sell that collector's item to old school gamer nerds that are going to salivate at all of this supposedly incredible stuff and this nice hardcover, okay? But and so if you only watch the first few minutes of this, you might think, oh, this is awesome. They're finally giving due respect to Gygax and to Arneson. You know, and I'll be happy to pay $100 plus shipping to get this thing, you know. But in fact, they couldn't even control themselves to the end of the video. They couldn't do it. It was just impossible for them. So that at the end of the video, they point out essentially that Gygax and Arneson are both evil. The original D&D is evil, and basically claimed that what they are doing now in D&D is fundamentally good, and it's therefore a vast improvement over this product. So they almost go so far, they don't quite say the words, but they almost go so far as to suggest that this item is meant to be only a historical resource and no one should ever dare to play it, because if you do, you're probably, a Trump voter or something. You're the worst thing they can imagine. So that's how much they hate this game, these people that are working now at Wizards of the Coast. Every single one of them, first of all, is a mediocrity. They're incapable of doing any meaningful design, right? And second, they are people who are actively hostile to D&D as it is. And so that's why for the last 2 years what they've been doing is essentially deconstructions of D&D, where they take your favorite thing, be it Ravenloft or Dragonlance or whatever, and literally tear it to pieces and make it into the opposite of what it was, right? In Dragonlance, dark powers are cool now. They don't do anything bad. There's no reason to fight evil because there is no evil, in in their various ethnic and whimsical products like the Radiant Citadel or Wild Beyond the Witchlight. They basically take all the tropes of D&D and turn them upside down because those tropes are evil. They involve the iconography of the heroic individual and of epic myth, and they want to replace that with you looking at curious and whimsical scenes in a carnival, or figuring out how to solve all of the problems of your life, which is a hot mess while you're a barista, or going out on an eat, pray, love ethnic vacation where you have food tasting contests at night markets, right? So they're trying to tear apart the game that you love. You've got to remember that and keep that in mind, you know. And the really interesting thing is that in some way in that video, they also basically admit that they don't really know what they're doing, you know. But anyway, what they say, I'm going to give you the literal quote here, right, about this product, right? They made this product that is basically it's just been taken directly from their archives of the original first draft of the D&D rules, letters that Gygax wrote, etc. And they say, now this is a historical document, so there are things, it was a different time. So we've had an inclusivity review of all of these materials, okay? And then that's Jason Tondro, and then the other guy whose name I forget, that's just the kind of host, right? Says multiple. So let's take a step back here. This is Jason Tondro. He says, let's take a step back here. Let's clarify there are materials in original Dungeons & Dragons that would never pass. That is to say, they are evil. To these people, the reason these wouldn't pass is because they are evil, right? So the game you love is evil. Okay, and then the other guy goes, yeah, and then Tondro says, our inclusivity reviews today, and a lot of it is, some of it you can understand, like, okay, these are a bunch of war gamers, and they're using armies from history. So when they create a warrior class for D&D, they call it the fighting man, right? Because that's what they were used to, and they were all men. They were all white dudes from Lake Geneva and the Twin Cities. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? So, okay, so we established that they were war gamers, which is evil, right? They were using history, which is evil to the Wizards of the Coast people. Remember, every single setting in D&D, since these people took over, has to be 2024 Seattle, with Seattle values, all in Renaissance Fair drag, right? That's the only setting that's allowed. You can't have a setting that is actually different. Even their ethnic settings are that, right? Because you look at their ethnic settings in Radiant Citadel, and it's like the Venezuelan setting, there's arepas, right? And everybody there is a communist, like in Seattle. In Mexico, there's Dia de los Muertos, but there's no Catholicism, right? One of the central traits of Mexican culture. There's Aztec gods, and people worship ghosts, and there's impoverished peasants, but everybody has 2024 Seattle values, right? So this is their impression on things, you know. And then they say, and then they came out with a warrior class for D&D. They call it the fighting man, okay? And so obviously that's bad because it's a man, right? And then they point out these are all men, which is a lie. There were people who weren't men that were involved from the earliest stages in both Arneson and Gygax's circle of D&D. And they were all white dudes from Lake Geneva and the Twin Cities, right? And again, I'm pretty sure that quite early on there were a couple of people that weren't white. But the point is that they point this out, that they were male and white, as if that in itself is clearly a sign of evil, right? That Gygax and Arneson were bad fundamentally because of their race and their gender, okay? And that this is just the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot of material in this book, and I won't go over it, but it would not pass our inclusivity reviews, right? And then they end the video, at the very end, they say, well, that is in to say the Gygax and Arneson version of D&D is not D&D anymore. They're literally claiming that it's too evil to exist today. Like that there's superior people who have made a superior game. That is also a lie, right? None of these people have made anything. None of them are capable of making a functioning edition of D&D. That's why even one D&D, their new version, is essentially going to be, at its core, it's going to be D&D 5th edition, which Mike Merles and I created. None of these people were actually doing anything other than typing up certain bits of it, but they weren't part of the creative process in any meaningful way. And, you know, we were the ones who made it, and now they are being hired to mutilate it, right? Basically, they're not going to change the core rules because they wouldn't know how to change the core rules in a way that would work for anyone, right? So all they're going to do is they're going to change some of the peripheral rules, one or two of them, and then they're going to mostly focus on changing things for ideological purposes. They are political commissars that are going to rewrite 5th edition into an edition that suits their totalitarian interests, right? So they're going to get rid of character races. They're going to, you know, put in more stuff about diversity and more stuff about gender and all of that. And then they're going to claim that they're game designers when actually all they are is political commissars, you know. And they also claim in the video that now we have a better audience, you know, by which they mean there are less white males. But again, that's also more or less a lie, right? I mean, we do know that there has been an upswing to some degree in people who are non-white that are playing D&D, but the numbers are very difficult to define, and they're probably fairly minuscule, right? And the proof of that is, like, you look, I mean, you just have to go to Diversity and Dragon's channel, watch the first 2 minutes of his live stream, and you will see there the sign where Kyle Brinks, he has Kyle Brinks from his interview saying, you know, white men can't leave the D&D hobby soon enough. And he juxtaposes this with the opening of Gen Con, which Gen Con is a super woke convention. And it's just streams and streams of white guys, right? Like almost everybody coming through the door is a white guy, right? So this idea that there's suddenly a rainbow coalition, we know that this is a lie, right? But beyond that, they're saying that it's evil if it's not that, right? Like that this is what they want. They want to fundamentally get rid of the people that love the game right now and replace them with other groups that they consider to be their ideological property. And I'm not saying anything bad about the groups. I'm saying stuff bad about these activists, right? Because they are the ones who have this vision that by doing this, they will be able to maintain power. The problem is it just hasn't worked, right? Because all of their garbage books have been selling worse and worse each time, which means that the existing fans are abandoning the products. But surprise, surprise, there aren't actually like a million Laotian lesbians who want to play D&D. There just isn't, right? Like there's the number of people out of, let's say, teenage and early 20s white males who want to play D&D, that percentage is much bigger, like much, much bigger than the percentage of teenage and early 20s black males or Asian males or Latino males, and hordes bigger than the idea of women and of LGBT people and what have you, right? Because for starter, all those are smaller groups to begin with. But secondly, it's not part of a culture that they're interested in. You have to have this is the part that these guys never get. The culture, it requires an infrastructure, right? It needs to have a whole bunch of underlying principles, right? So somebody who likes Dungeons and Dragons is going to like it because of an underpinning of a whole bunch of other things that also informs his other interests and hobbies, that has to do with his education, that has to do with the personal style of his family culture, with religion, with all kinds of things. And of course, some of these various groups will have some of those things, some of them won't, right? And this is, but the thing is that these are not just incidentals, right? Now, of course, these people want to change the game into something totally different, but there's also no evidence that any of these other demographic groups have any interest in the game being changed to that. Like, if the game tomorrow became only about going to explore ethnic cuisine in non-white based fantasy settings with no combat, there's no evidence that a single non-white person would actually want to play that game either, right? Like, and there's a lot of evidence that they wouldn't, because they didn't buy Radiant Citadel. Radiant Citadel is their worst selling product in, of that scale of product in who knows how long, probably at least since 4th edition, maybe beating out everything in 4th edition, of being worse than even that, okay? So these guys are basically pushing a lie, okay? And they couldn't even wait till the end of this infomercial video. They had to put it in there to basically damn Gygax and Arneson, damn original D&D, and damn everybody who likes it, okay? Because of course, if you're, let's say you're not a white male gamer, or you're not white, or you're not a male, or whatever, and you like original D&D, that still makes you bad. That might make you worse, right? Like, we've seen that the ideological left goes after nobody as badly as it goes after somebody that they think they should get to own, and who is being uppity, right? Like, they believe that these minority groups, be it gay people, be it trans people, be it black people or Latinos or whoever, that those people are their property, sir, right? And that if you are one of those people and you dare to say, you know what, I actually like Dungeons and Dragons, I just like playing Dungeons and Dragons just the way it is, then that makes you the greatest enemy of all, because you destroy their claim to that to that property, to being able to speak on your behalf, So this is, like anybody who likes D&D, you are being told that you're the problem, like real D&D, not the garbage they're coming out with. So let me close by giving a warning to the crowd here, because I'm kind of familiar with this type of talk at this point, and I noticed, because I know that there's a lot of you out there who are going to look at that book and are going to think, oh, I've got to have it, and you know all the arguments, that Wizards is a horrible company, that they hate you, that they're producing stuff that is intentionally meant to harm the hobby you love, but you've got whatever we want to call it, OCD, spurging, whatever, you watch that video that is meant in the first 30 minutes of it to just overdose you with member berries, and tap into every part of your instinct to be a mindless drone collector who will happily pay $100 to Hasbro to help them keep destroying the thing you love, because you have to have the book, you have to have the collection, you have to have the whole thing, right? If that's you, for Christ's sake, please just listen to me for 1 second, okay? Because it is very clear, I think, that there is some very interesting kind of phrasing at the end of that video. They don't tell you they didn't show you like the table of contents or something, but they do go into pains to point out that everything that Gygax wrote is deeply problematic. And at the very end, Tondro, he says, because this is history, we didn't edit anything. Okay, so it's not that they're going to go and they're going to rewrite what Gygax wrote and suddenly make it PC. Okay, maybe they're not allowed to. I don't know, but or maybe it's just that they realize that would be too controversial. I'm not sure, but they do tell you at the end of the video about the product that Gygax is writing, that the writing in this book itself went through multiple inclusivity reviews. That's their term for censorship reviews, right? As of last year, I think early last year, or maybe late the year before that, they made a commitment. It was after the thing with the Hadozi in Spelljammer, another setting they totally destroyed. That they made the commitment that every single word in every single book in D&D will be looked at by at least 3 inclusivity consultants who get paid to find racism where there is none. Okay? And they say this in the video. They say that they've done multiple looks at it. And they say that they're not editing anything out of the book. But it sounds to me like the part that they didn't say, which is what you've got to watch for, because they didn't say, well, we're just presenting the book as it is. That's what they didn't say. So I suspect that you're going to get a section of that 500 and whatever page book is going to be, maybe in the back or whatever, right? But it's going to be there. It's going to be a section talking about why this game is evil and why what they're doing now is good and better and how it's actually improved and why you should hate this kind of D&D, or you should feel sorry for it, or at least recognize that it was the product a dark age of horrific racial intolerance and lack of sexual diversity and all that, right? They're going to, in the book, I suspect there will be something there that will have to go out of its way to explain that if you like this game, you're a bad person. So this book should only be there as like a cautionary thing for you to look at and understand how horrible the game was in its earlier periods or whatever, So before you give $100 plus shipping to Hasbro, a corporation controlled by people that literally want you kicked out of the hobby and maybe just plain exterminated in general, take note that phrasing that Tondro used, okay? It's bound to tell you that Gygax and Arneson were horrible and despicable in some way, and how despicable you are if you actually like this stuff. So, I know that there's that huge temptation, all right? Even though they could be, that they're going to be calling you a filthy, evil gamer like you for actually liking D&D, and that you shouldn't be in the hobby and all this, and yet you are still potentially capable, because you're a nerd, some of you, anyways, maybe many of you, of ending up buying this just because member berries, right? But at the very least, do yourself the favor of not pre-ordering it, okay? Let's start there. I'm not expecting miracles here, right? But let's start with that and hope for the best. So do not pre-order it. Wait to see what's actually in it so you can be sure, right? Because they've done this before. Wizards has often done this. And they did this with Radiant Citadel, for example, where if you looked on the internet in certain places, you would see that they would point out very boldly and bravely about how this book, nobody involved in this book was a white person, right? And how this book is going to be full of stuff like exciting night markets and eating contests and eat, pray, love, travel things and all of that. And that the Radiant Citadel is a socialist paradise, okay? Like a literal utopia, all of which is true. But they'll say that to their followers on Twitter or on, other places of social media. Maybe nowadays they wouldn't do it so much there on Twitter, but in the pre-Elon days they would have. And so they're saying that to a select audience, to the audience of the people that they want to know for sure that they're doing the appropriate virtue signaling. But if you looked at the sales pitches to bookstores and on Amazon and on the book back cover and everything, all of that, what you'd see instead is this is an awesome multiverse spanning adventure full of action and whatever. Like it looked like, looking at the ad copy for the normies, the ones they wanted to fool, it looked like it was going to be another, epic campaign adventure, and that it wasn't going to, they didn't mention any of that stuff. They didn't tell you that it's actually meant to basically attack the entire concept of the D&D party, right? So you can expect this book will too, all right? It would be way better if you want to celebrate the history of D&D, and you absolutely, you could certainly celebrate the history of D&D by buying products from the true heirs to the history of D&D, like the OSR, like my books, for example. However, if what you want is something that looks at the history of the origin of our hobby, there's already a book. It's this book. It's called Tonisborg, right? The Lost Dungeons of Tonisborg. There it is. Lost Dungeons of Tonisborg, okay? This book is an absolute amazing jewel of a book, okay? It contains one of the three earliest mega dungeons of Dungeons & Dragons. A mega dungeon that was run, I think, up to 2 years before the Dungeons & Dragons rules were actually published, okay? It was part of Dave Arneson's group. And in this book, there are 3 sections, and the first section contains a detailed history of the development of D&D in that early period, especially focused on the part that Arneson and his group played, but also dealing with some of the stuff from Gary Gygax. It has first-person accounts from many people who were there. It has documents in it, like this other book that the Wizards is doing has. And then the second part is a complete mega dungeon that never ended up getting published, but that was one of the first and most famous D&D dungeons, the Dungeons of Tonisborg, right? It's a 10-level dungeon, quite large, I'm really enjoying running it right now. I'm not being paid to do this. I don't have any business association with Griffith Morgan, who made Tonnisborg. I'm saying this because I know it to be a truth, because I've been running the game. I'm really enjoying it, and it's fantastic, right? And the dungeon is a really interesting dungeon of the earliest period of D&D. And then the third part that it has is a complete set of the one version of the D&D rules. The D&D rules are one of the stages as it was run in Arneson's table. And it's a very interesting set of rules because it has a lot of the ideas of Arneson. It gives you an idea of what D&D would have looked like if Arneson was the main was the main author instead of Gygax. And the rules are really good. You can really run them. You can run the classic D&D with them, and they're interesting. Some of them are a little weird because there are some parts that are very different from the way that it's done even in typical old school D&D. But they work, and they work in interesting ways. They do interesting stuff. So if you're gonna spend money, and I don't think this is $100. I think even the hardcover version is cheaper than that for sure. Check out the Dungeons of Tonnisborg instead, okay? So celebrate, here's a crazy thought. Celebrate Gygax and Arneson by not giving money to people who just called them racist monsters, okay? Instead, give it to somebody who's actually doing them homage in a genuine way, not in a self-serving, gross, ideologically perverted sort of way, okay? So do that. And of course, feel free as well to celebrate the history of the hobby by investing in the future of the hobby, okay? Which is the OSR. That's the future of the D&D hobby, because I guarantee you that the nonsense and garbage that Wizards of the Coast is putting out right now is not the future. And neither is changing D&D into a subscription fee phone game, which is their next step, the future. That's not the future of D&D. That might be the future of the D&D phone game on, whatever, the virtual tabletop subscription service that will become its own thing, or it'll die out. I don't know which of the two. But the hobby itself, the thing that will keep D&D alive, is more than ever the OSR. So check out my products. World of the Last Sun. I've just finished today, well, many hours ago now, but today, running the 11th anniversary session of the World of the Last Sun. I've been running it every 2 weeks for 11 years, my longest campaign ever. It's an incredible setting. This and the Gonzo Fantasy Companion. Arrows of Indra, or Sword and Caravan, are settings based on real history and mythologies. Lion and Dragon is an incredible rule set. Very soon we will have Baptism of Fire out, which is for epic Slavic fantasy role-playing in Poland during the Christianization period. So, these are games that are doing homage to D&D, right? But they're made by people who love D&D and who want to continue making great stuff that is in homage to everything that has come before. All right, so think about that, right? Like, just contain the Spurg instincts for just the tiniest bit. Wait till the product comes out, and then just don't buy it anyways, right? Don't give money to people who want you and the thing you love to cease to exist. All right, that's my message for today. So if you like this video, please share it anywhere you can. Hit the subscribe button. Share it anywhere you think people will like it or will be pissed off by it. Check out all my products are in the links in my description below. And hit the notification bell to be on alert for live streams. I'm not sure when my next live stream will be, but I think after this week where I've done way more videos than average, maybe this coming week I will take things a little slower. I don't know. But then again, maybe the news won't let me. WotC seems to be determined to do one massive screw up every 3 days or so. So it's entirely possible you'll be seeing more of me. Currently smoking. This is the Ben Wade Rhodesian plus Argento Latakia.